Grab your mouth guards, strap on the gloves, because it's time for another edition of Brother versus Brother here on Betting with the Barbers, powered by Superbook Sports. I'm your host, Ron Kruck, joined, of course, by former New York Giant Tiki Barber and former Tampa Bay Buck Ronde Barber. Guys, what is up?
What is up is that Tiki's wearing a size medium, so he can't buckle his top shirt, his top button on his shirt.
The guns are out already.
I'm flexing because I'm crushing it.
Did you take that from my 16-year-old's closet?
Dude, I started lifting weights again, man. I got big. I was 182 pounds a year ago. Now I'm like 195. So I just got big again.
Yeah, no second.
Haven't had a chance to go shopping yet.
Yeah, no second comeback attempt, though, right?
No, not at all.
Oh, we'll save that for another time. But I'd show those guns off too, Tiki. Hey, before we look ahead, let's take a look back and at last week. Really, I mean, forget about brotherly love. You two disagreed on several games, highlighted by the game of the week. You both picked Green Bay versus Detroit, and round number one goes for the man with the guns right now, the way of Tiki Barber, who took the Packers to cover the 11.5 against the Detroit Lions. Ronde, you were all over the Lions.
Yes, I'm eating a lot of humble pie right now. I was so dead wrong on that. But I texted Tiki at halftime or called him at halftime. It's like, how do you feel about your number right now? It was a close game for two quarters, and then it reverted back to the Lions that we know and the Packers that we all expected at the beginning of the year. I was definitely wrong. I was right, though, on the 49ers on the road as a plus against the Eagles. So I got something right. But I will admit, Tiki, you were way ahead of me on that.
I got to tell you, I was when the underdog scores first and the line is 11, and all of a sudden you're like, that's 18 now. it becomes a challenge. But Green Bay, look, they have such good talent on the team. What happened in week one, you can kind of chalk it up to the New Orleans Saints being galvanized. Remember, they have been displaced because of Ida for the last month or so. So being together, training camp, all in one spot, it was just an uplifting moment to play that first game. But the Saints got destroyed, only had 128 total yards in week two. That also is explainable because now they're on the road. They get 8 coaches that get COVID, mainly because they're not in their normal facilities with the same protocol. So the destruction in week two was also very predictable, which may be informative of one of the games that we have later on.
I tell you what I've noticed about the first 2 weeks of the season, you want to be an underdog. I think the underdogs are 21-11, including, what were they, 9 of 16 last week on the betting odds. I mean, at this point in the year, you don't really know what teams are. There's 21 teams that are 1-1 in the NFL right now. It's pretty hard to classify what a team is or is not at this point. So it's always going to be a challenge early in the year. Teams have yet to decide who or how they're going to be. One thing we do know, though, the Jets aren't going to be very good.
Easy now. Yeah, I mean, you hit it, Ronde. If you jumped on the underdogs, just looking at some stats here, you'll be reaping the benefits at this point. I think 11 dogs covered in week number one. Favorites bounce back a little bit in week two. 7 favorites covered the spread. 9 underdogs came in, and that's according to the closing odds from superbook.com. What stood out to me too, guys, from last week, so many injuries, especially on the quarterback front. So we need to keep an eye on those as we move into week 3. The lines will move as teams announce who will be the quarterbacks. Is it Andy Dalton or Justin Fields in Chicago? Is it Tua or Brissett in Miami? Just a few to keep an eye on.
Totally agree. I don't like any of the backups.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. Well, before we preview week number 3 of the NFL season, make sure that you guys are doing your homework with the latest odds from superbook.com. Once you do your prep, get in the game. Download the Superbook app, and you'll get the latest lines and special betting promotions. And, of course, make sure you're following us on social media at Superbook Sports. All right, let's kick it off, guys, with our first game of the week. Really two teams that seems to be trending in opposite directions as the New York Jets 0-2 travel to Denver to take on the 2-0 Denver Broncos. I think only this homer would have said at the beginning of the year that the Denver Broncos would be ahead of both the Chiefs and the Chargers in the standings after 2 games. Unbelievable. Maybe even I wouldn't have believed that, but they are tied with the Raiders at 2-0 in the AFC West. They have a chance to go 3-0 because they are playing the Jets at home as the Jets come in struggling. Man, it was a ugly game for the Jets last week against the Patriots. Bill Belichick's defense just made it a long and frustrating day for rookie quarterback Zach Wilson, who threw 4 picks, but that's what they do. Guys, here are the odds coming in from superbook.com. Denver open as a huge 11-point favorite. Current odds are now 10.5. The over-under 41. Denver, one of the biggest favorites of week 3. Denver is 2-0 against the spread, and the Jets 0-2. Ronde, take it away.
I tell you what, Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback, all he does is cover the spread. I mean, he's covering this football team. He's 77% completion at this point in the year. No wide receiver in Jerry Jeudy. He's out. But Cortland Sutton, all he does is go out and have a 159-yard receiving day, and they look really balanced on offense. Now, it's hard for me to buy the Denver Broncos right now because they played a bad team last week in Jacksonville, close. I mean, that game was closer than the final score indicated. And we know how bad the Jags are. But look, Teddy Bridgewater, he's so efficient. They have enough weapons on offense. They have defense that can get after the quarterback. And the Jets, look, they're asking this rookie quarterback to do way too much. They have a pretty decent runner in rookie Michael Carter, who's only got 13 or 14 touches on the entire year. So if you're looking to bet the Jets, if they're going to play the same way that they played these first 2 weeks, they have no chance. They're going to get just completely covered 10.5 points. I don't care what it is, 11.5 points, 12 points. It doesn't matter. They're putting too much on the young kid, and it's resulting in bad showing for their football team.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about this game, well, really about the Denver Broncos, is whoever did the scheduling made it so easy for them. Giants, Jags, Jets to start. They're going to be 3-0.
Ron was behind that.
I had a little pull on that one.
You talk about it, man. Look, yes, I know they played that game against the Jags close, but they only gave up in total 189 yards to the Jags squad. And look, you talk about Michael Carter for the New York Jets. Well, his running mate back at the University of North Carolina, Javonte Williams, is such a good complement in the backfield up in Colorado to Melvin Gordon, which allows Teddy B to be free and open and push the ball downfield to Tim Patrick and to Noah Fant and Cortland Sutton. You see all of these big plays happening because their run game has been so consistent. Now, the biggest thing to me in this game is that the Jets defense has been playing well. They're actually a top 10 defense in football, but the turnovers, the lack of production, the red zone short circuits of this offense have been their Achilles heel. The problem with the Jets being top 10 is that the Denver Broncos are top 5. And so I like this Denver Broncos squad. Von Miller, who we mentioned last week, he's got 3 sacks on the season already. Patrick Surtain had an interception last week. They're going to get after this Jets team. I like the 10.5 for the home team. Give me the Denver Broncos laying 10.5.
Got it. And just to clarify, Ronde, you're going Denver too, correct?
Absolutely. 10.5. I don't care what the number is. If Zach Wilson's going to be allowed to throw 4 interceptions in a game against one of the greatest defensive-minded coaches ever, then the Jets are just in disarray right now. They got to figure something out.
Yeah, let's make it a clean sweep. I'm a little hesitant to see Denver cover 3 weeks in a row, but Ronde, you hit it. They have one of the easiest schedules right now in the league. If Teddy Bridgewater continues to play and do what he was brought in to do, they're going to be just fine. But this is the home opener, and Mile High is going to be rocking with the Broncos having a chance to go 3-0 for the first time since 2016. Yeah, I'm going with Denver as well. So make sure to stay on top of all the line movements at Superbook sportsbook.com for the latest lines, point totals, and Superbook promotions. All right, guys, let's move on to game number 2. The Atlanta Falcons are traveling to Tiki's New York Giants. 2 teams looking for their first wins of the 2021 season, which I always say this in MMA, which means someone's O has got to go. How did the Giants come back, guys, from losing a game because they jumped off sides on a game-winning field goal? I mean, I don't want to be too dramatic for this, but the odds of making the playoffs after going 0-3, not good.
Yeah.
Both the Falcons and Giants must-win situation. Tiki, they're your Giants. Give us your take on the match.
It was a horrendous way to lose the game. They did cover last week, though. It was a horrendous way to lose the game. However, there were some good things that came out of it, and that's really all you're looking for if you're a Giant fan right now. Daniel Jones looked exceptional. Now, keep this in mind. If a 58-yard touchdown doesn't get called back on a holding call, if Darius Slayton catches that 43-yard touchdown that Daniel Jones threw to him, he got hit just as he let it go. That's why it was a little bit long, but Darius Slayton's got to catch that pass. If those 2 things happen, Daniel Jones finishes the game with 300 yards passing and 2 touchdowns and 150 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. He has a 454 touchdown day if those 2 little things don't happen. So you have to be encouraged that Jason Garrett is starting to put the ball in their best players' hands. Yes, I said it. Daniel Jones is the best player, best athlete on that team. And for too long, they've been piddling around, letting him throw the ball and dink and dunk. Let Daniel Jones be Daniel Jones and cook. Now, offensively, they have issues with their offensive line. That's why we're seeing this. So that's why Saquon Barkley has 1 carry for 41 yards and then 12 carries for 16 yards. It's just not consistent or sustainable. Defensively, they've had some issues, and that's where they're going to get tested in this game against the Atlanta Falcons. Calvin Ridley is their top receiver. Kyle Pitts is second right there. And Matt Ryan still has a little bit left, maybe a little bit left, but I don't think we see it this weekend. I like the Giants to cover this 3 points, mainly because they're desperate and they have to get a win at home for a team that had a little bit of expectation, not a ton, but a little bit of expectation. They have to get right against a team that's playing really poorly right now in the Atlanta Falcons.
I'll tell you this, Tiki. The Bucs are the prohibitive favorite to win the NFC, correct?
Yes.
That game against Atlanta last week and start of the 4th quarter was 28-25, and Atlanta was in the football game. I was sitting there watching it saying Atlanta has a chance to win. What happened? Their offense imploded. Matt Ryan throws 2 interceptions for a touchdown, but they outgained the Bucs last week. Tom Brady, all those weapons, they outgained the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week on the road. And so I look at this game and you almost the Giants feel cursed. Joe Judge is not making good decisions. I don't know what the heck he was doing at the end of the game, by the way. We can get on. That's a totally different diatribe that I just don't feel like getting into right now. But you feel like Dan Jones is in a no-win situation. Based on what you just said, the numbers that he put up, you watched the game. He looked good. Saquon Barkley, okay, you have one big run. Like it's the Dan James show or Daniel Jones show, and he can't do it by himself. Their defense is not good enough to stop what I think is an explosive Atlanta offense. So I'm against you here. I think actually Atlanta's going to go on the road and win. They're a better football team than their record shows. Are they ready to be competitive, Atlanta? No, because they don't have enough talent. Like the Bucs have no cap space and have a lot of talent. Atlanta has no cap space and very little talent, and what they do have is young, except for their old quarterback. Who, look, he's not the same, but he's still good enough, I think, to pull out a win this week. So we're at odds again.
I love
Surprising.
There's a real shocker there. They're at odds.
Ronde's in New York. It's like 90 degrees and 80% humidity. He's got a sweater on. What's wrong with you, dude?
Tiki's holding on to the summertime with that shirt. He's going to a barbecue after this, I think. Hey, the odds right now, the Giants opened up as a 3-point favorite. No movement. They are still 3 points favorites. The over-under in this game is 48. What scares me, guys, is back-to-back road games for the Falcons, and Matt Ryan has been getting destroyed. His O-line is is kind of a mess. I went back and forth with this one because Ronde, you brought it up. That game, the Bucks and the Falcons was close going into that fourth quarter. I think the Bucks defense is struggling a little bit, but I think the Giants, they get it going this week. I'm going to take the Giants in this game. A couple quick stats from superbook.com. The Giants are 20-1 odds to win the NFC East. Those are the worst odds. Dallas are the favorites at -155. Okay, let's move on now to game number 3 and Monday Night Football. We've got the Philadelphia Eagles, 1-1, traveling down to the Dallas Cowboys. They also come into this game 1-1. This is the home opener for the Cowboys. And you look at this matchup, fellas. I think Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense, took a little step back against the 49ers last week. A very good defense, though. He only completed 50% of his passes, just threw for 190 yards. Cowboys got things rolling with a big win in LA, knocking off the Chargers. Ronde, we'll start with you. Give us your take on this matchup.
Random fact from last week's game between each of these two games. But at one point, there was 11 points on the board in each of those games.
What? Crazy. What are the odds of that?
I didn't bet that. I should have bet that because that's just a random.
That is a random prop.
Look, Philly, and I warned you last week, Tiki. Philly, when they played a good defense, they were going to struggle. There were some big plays in that game. Jalen Hurts, of course, doing what Jalen Hurts does, scrambled, got out of the pocket, created some plays down the field with his arm, and then they imploded in the red zone against San Francisco. That game was dull. Let's call it what it was. San Fran won and they covered and all that other stuff. But it wasn't a well played game by either team. I just don't know that Philly is good enough to go to Dallas and win because the litmus test on Dak Prescott injury passed. The big contract number passed. The guy is legit right now. And then you have that two-headed monster running back with Zeke Elliott. Or I should say the other way, Tony Pollard and Zeke Elliott, because all he needs the guy, man. They look like they can run away with the NFC East, in my opinion. So I think Philly going on the road Monday night, big setting in Dallas, no chance. I think this game screams Dallas. Take those points and go with it. They're playing better on defense as well. The Cowboys are. I think there was so much uncertainty with this team at the beginning of the year. I feel like that certainty is almost gone at this point.
And Tiki, let me give the quick odds as we go into this before we get your take on this game. Dallas opened as a -4 favorite. Money coming in on the Eagles are down to -3.5. The over-under is 51.5 points. What are your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, I think money's starting to go to the Eagles because people have forgotten that they suffered a rash of injuries last week, including Brandon Brooks, their starting right guard, who has a pec injury. So that means Nate Herberg is going to take his spot. But probably more importantly, Brandon Graham tore his Achilles on the defensive side of the ball. Zach Ertz has COVID. I mean, you look at their injury list; it's at least 12 guys long. Now, some of those guys may play, but still, they're hitting the injury bug early on in this season. I like the Cowboys -3.5 in this game, mainly because of what Ronde said with Tony Pollard, who's more diverse than Zeke. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He had over 100 yards rushing last week. Dak Prescott, we saw it last year when they were in desperation mode and had to outscore everybody. He can fling it. He can open it, and he's comfortable. The wide receiving core, even though Amari Cooper is banged up a little bit, is one of the tops in the NFC and the NFC East. And so I like them to be able to score points. I don't like the Philadelphia Eagles' ability to score points. They have been very bad in scoring, 21st in scoring in the National Football League this year. Yes, they run the ball fantastically. I think they're second in rush in the league. Well, that's because your quarterback, gets 120 yards every game or so. The stats will lie to you about the Philadelphia Eagles. I like them, in the future. I don't like them right now against a Dallas team that has it. They're feeling good about themselves after week 2. Week 1 was a tough loss, obviously. Week 2, they feel good about themselves. And yes, I know they lost their defensive end and DeMarcus Lawrence, but Micah Parsons, who hadn't played DN, exclusively since high school, lined up at the DN. He had, a sack and 3 pressures or 4 pressures, I think. He was just disruptive. That dude can do whatever he wants. This new scheme is benefiting the Dallas Cowboys. And at home in the opener, where all the expectations of Jerry World and Jerry Jones are going to be realized on the Philadelphia Eagles' expense, give me the Cowboys minus 3.5.
Again, the current odds from superbook.com, Dallas is a minus 3.5 point favorite, over under 51.5. I think we're all on the same page with this one. We're all either going to be on fire this weekend, or we're going to be hiding in the closet. I'm going Dallas too. I think the biggest challenge for them again is going to be just containing Hurts with his running ability to get to the outside. But I think the Cowboys defense is up for the challenge. I like the Cowboys as well. Well, we are just rolling on as week number 3. The NFL season is here. And now it is time, guys, for the Barbers game of the week. I don't think we're going to agree with the same game like you did last week. We're going to go to Tiki first in the setup. Tiki, what's your game of the week?
My game of the week is the New Orleans Saints at the New England Patriots. The Pats are laying 3 here, and I like the Pats. And the reason is they feel steady. Right. Josh McDaniels has a quarterback that he likes. Now, they've been terrible in the red zone, only 2 conversions for touchdowns out of 7 attempts. So you worry about that just a little bit. But at home, having Mac Jones playing as well as he's been playing, their run game has been stout. They're going to be consistent. They don't make mistakes. But most importantly, this defense, this traditional old schoolish Bill Belichick defense has been dominant. Josh Uche is leading the way with 3 sacks on that side. They get after the ball. They confuse you. And remember earlier in the season, in this episode, when I was talking about the New Orleans Saints, they're still not home. They have one of the most challenging early parts of the season, not because of their schedule, but because of the circumstances of Hurricane Ida. So we send our best wishes to everyone down in New Orleans.
Absolutely.
But for the New Orleans Saints, just from an operational standpoint, you have 8 coaches out. Ronde, you know this. You got to install a specific game plan on a Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday, and now all of a sudden, it's the quality control guy doing it? It's the your position coach by Zoom. Like, how are you teaching these guys? So that's why we saw what happen in week 2. I think we're going to see it happen in week 3 as well against a very good New England defense. Give me the New England Patriots laying 3.
Yeah, my only caveat to your pick there is I think Sean Payton is a genius. He finds ways to manufacture success for his team, and he'll be motivated to go to New England.
But you did see Jameis Winston doing Jameis Winston things last week, did you not?
I did, unfortunately. I did. So what are they? Again, like I said earlier in the show, what are the New Orleans Saints? We don't know. And my game of the week. So I almost picked Green Bay, San Francisco, just because we don't know what either one of those teams are. I know San Fran is 2-0, but they don't look like a 2-0 team to me. And in Green Bay, after getting blown out, goes and has the second half that we all expected Aaron Rodgers to have last week. That was always my game. But my game of the week, and this is so homerish of me. It's the pick'em game. Bucks at Rams. I mean, it's 1 point, right? Bucks are
it's moved all over, Ronde. I mean, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers opened up getting 2.5 points. Unbelievable. And now they are the favorite by 1.5. I mean, this line was all over under 55. So I'm glad you picked this game, Ronde.
Yeah, and it'll probably change again before. I mean, depending what happens at the latter part of this week. I mean, the Bucks have a couple of guys with COVID issues. You don't know if that's going to accelerate if other guys get tested, because they do the staggered testing now, so guys can show up later on in the week or whatnot. But look, this are the Rams what we think they are? Are they Matthew Stafford just freewheeling, letting it rip it down the field all day long? They were week 1. They definitely were not week 2. I mean, I think the Colts played them tough, and the Colts lost their quarterback at the end of that football game. So I'm trying to decide, looking at this game, who is who. The Bucks. Put it this way: I've watched every single snap for the last 2 years of this football team. They are really good on offense, and they are really average on defense. They cannot stop people when they need to. So if you're betting this game, the pick 'em, dude, I don't know who to take here. It's your preference. One thing's for certain: take the over on points. This is going to be. I think it's what is the number? I think it's
55.
55. I guarantee you, there's 60 points scored in this football game. But it's definitely the game of the week. It's the game of the week for a reason. It's the game of the week on Fox. Yeah. It's one that's going to be paid the most attention to. Probably the one that's betted the most this weekend.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. Two teams with Super Bowl expectations for sure. I think it's going to be an offensive shootout as well. But wouldn't you have loved to get the Bucks plus 2.5 at the beginning of the week?
Can you lock that in? Can you lock that in?
I did not.
Some people did. Some people did.
Sleeping Monday morning. But got to set the alarm earlier. So current odds on that game, again, we said the Bucks started at plus 2.5, and now they are current 1.5 point favorites over under 55. And Mike Rigg, our producer, hitting us up with some knowledge this morning. As we see, Antonio Brown will be on the COVID reserve list this morning. So they will be without Antonio Brown. Maybe we see some more movement on the line, guys.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, they have so much talent at wide receiver and pass catchers from Gronk, and we haven't even said Cameron Brate or OJ Howard's name really much this season. And we know the receiving core is good. So Antonio Brown is a luxury for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as we saw in the Super Bowl. But he can be an X factor, obviously, as well.
Some future odds from superbook.com. Brady 5-1 now to win the MVP, tied with Mahomes after he's been on fire to start this season. And Matthew Stafford right behind him at 7-1. Man,
interesting.
I would have loved to see what he was at the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
about it. I have no idea. Look,
whoever so that should be a great game of the week. Quickly, my game of the week is definitely not a game of the week, but a game that I really like. What's going on in Jacksonville? I mean, come on. I mean, Urban Meyer, considering going back to college after week 1, week 2, they're apologizing to their fans. Come on. It's week 2.
He's telling them to be patient, which is what you got to do. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, let's be real here. He had so much potential. He was a national champion and as a freshman at Clemson. He was one of the top players ever coming out of college. I mean, people are putting him up there with Peyton Manning when he came in. However, he is having one of the worst starts for a number 1 overall pick in the history of the National Football League. 5 interceptions already. He does look good at points, but he's going to struggle because they're a mess down there.
Is that more than Jameis threw? Because he's the number 1 pick. He got off to a pretty tough
start.
Good
question. Yeah, got to take a deep dive.
Yeah, but I don't think he had a 50% completion percentage.
Yeah. Well, I think the Cardinals in that potent offense, they're going to roll. Kyler Murray will lead the way. They're going to steamroll the Jags. That's game that I am keeping an eye on. All right, guys.
Speaking of MVP odds, what are his odds? Kyler Murray, man. Jeez.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Unbelievable. Well, guys, each week we have a season-long contest going with the winner having the chance to earn a trip of a lifetime to Las Vegas to view the Super Bowl. With what makes this even bigger, you get to hang out with the Barber brothers. All you have to do is send in a question via Twitter, just to the handle at Superbook Sports or at Ronde Barber, at Tiki Barber, at R Kruck, and you're in. It's just that simple. And you could be hanging out with the Barbers in Vegas on Super Bowl weekend. All right, this week's question, guys. Maybe the leader in the clubhouse after 3 weeks after this. This is my favorite so far. Coming in from a Robert Sheikh, who asks, Which one of you is more hated in Philadelphia? That is going to be a tough.
Well, see, Ronde doesn't get the opportunity to ask this question of Philadelphia Philly fans as frequently as Philadelphia Eagles fans as frequently as I do. So whenever I'm close to Philly, South Jersey, or even in Philadelphia, I get the, oh, TK, man, I hated you when you were playing, and but I respect you, good job. And I say, oh, time out. Who do you hate more, me or my brother? And they're not even thinking about it, because they're just thinking about hating me. And as soon as I say that, they're like, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's Ronde. Ronde closed the vet, man. He closed the vet with a 92-yard interception return for a touchdown that shut out Donovan McNabb's opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. So
you're proud
it's definitely Ronde. Definitely Ronde.
I don't think there's any question, because as Tiki just methodically beat the Eagles from time to time, game in and game out, I apparently ruined some kids' childhoods because they were watching that game and they knew that they were going to the Super Bowl. So I apologize for being on your most hated list, but I'm still a good guy. I'll still break bread with you, drink beer with you, man. So it's all good.
There you go. And who knows, knowing your luck, the winner of this contest is going to be a fan from Philly. And you two are going to
I would love it. I would love it.
Me too.
And answer like a list of 100 questions. Well, that's our season-long contest. So get into it. Send us a question for Ronde and Tiki, just on Twitter at Superbook Sports, and you could be hanging in Vegas with the Tiki brothers. Great question this week. And guys, a lot of fun. That's going to wrap up episode number 3 of Betting with the Barbers. Before we kick off week number 3, any thoughts?
Kyler Murray, 6-1 odds, by the way. Mike Reed just told us that. Thoughts? I think this is the trend of the season is the underdog. These teams have to go on the road and, maybe show up. So it's hard to bet sometimes early in the season, but, just stick to your gut. That's how I feel about football. Just stick to your gut. What I wish I had was, I wish the Kansas City Baltimore game was still going on. That was by far the most entertaining game I've seen in a long time. I hope there's a game this week that rivals that one.
My thought for week 3 is maybe we now understand why Mark Davis gave John Gruden a 10-year contract. It took him a couple of years, but they are playing lights out. And Derek Carr, his MVP odds are going to start rising as well. Yep. He's got talent on offense. Max Crosby has turned into that alpha that John Gruden has been seeking on the defensive side of the ball. They're getting after it. Anybody would have thought the Denver Broncos and the Las Vegas Raiders would be the only 2-0 teams in the AFC West? Nobody, except for Ron, who's a homer. So the Raiders, man, the Raiders are good. They are good.
The only 2 undefeated teams in the entire AFC, Tiki.
That's a great point.
Crazy. I think as we look at it right now, early in the season, NFC West, AFC West, by far the 2 top divisions.
No doubt.
Guys, what a blast. We're so happy that we are rolling on with this show, and we thank our viewers and our listeners. As always, these odds are subject to change, so check out superbook.com or the Superbook app and get the latest odds and boosts and promos as well. And make sure you're following us on social media. We are at Superbook Sports. Tell your friends, listen to all the full episodes of Betting with the Barbers, the podcast before the games, on Spotify and on Apple. For Ronde and Tiki Barber, I'm Ron Kruck. We will see you again next week for another episode of